So lately I've been getting a lot of questions, comments, and emails that all kind of generally convey the same sentiments of this email I'm about to read to you. Email, Dear Morgan, big fan of your videos. Been following your farm journey for a while now. But I have to ask, with the Trump back in charge, are you planning to ditch America and run off to Canada like all those liberals threaten to do? Seems pretty convenient, especially with some of the stuff you say in your videos. Don't get me wrong, I like what you're doing with the farm, but it's hard not to wonder if there's some sort of agenda behind it. Just curious, sincerely yours, a viewer who loves America. I don't know if it's North America or South America. They do not specify. Well, thank you for the email, Western Hemisphere. Thank you for the email, Western Hemisphere. Yes, there is a lot to address in that message, and I feel like it actually will be kind of interesting to talk about this one, even though it might kind of bump up against the border of the political realm of things. But in today's video, I'm going to unpack this email and address the question about whether or not we're moving to Canada, because I genuinely believe it's a very healthy thought exercise. And the truck door comes in the night! Hey, would you look at that? It's the cheat. Come back here, the cheat. You know, I'm not gonna BS you guys. I'm definitely not pleased with the results of the election, but they are what they are here in the United States, and so you just kind of gotta roll with it. Good morning, large white farm dogs. How are you guys doing, huh? Good to see you. Good to see you both. Hey, stay inside, stay inside. All right. And yes, I am rather concerned about the prospects of a second Trump administration.
Walking around pouting like your little sister took your last Oreo. And not a traditional Oreo, no, a limited edition Oreo or seasonal Oreo. They're gonna take off the shelf for another year.
But at the same time, I really don't want to panic around all of this stuff and want to be thoughtful and rational about all things. The economic impact of Donald Trump's plans to jack up tariffs and start a trade war is definitely concerning for me, as it should probably be concerning for most farmers out there. And then yes, the thoughts and threats of mass deportation scare me because I don't know how it would be done, really trying to respect people's human rights. And there could potentially even be members of my own family who would be affected. But I love where I live, and I love my farm, and I love my country. And so the idea of leaving this country seems kind of unfathomable. Rise and grind, weird chickens. I feel like before I can even address any of these questions that the emailer and other people who've sent similar comments or emails have said, really, I can't even address any of it without first recognizing that we've been here on our farm. So we bought the farm back in 2016, the summer of 2016. Allison moved up in the fall of 2017. I moved up here full time in May of 2018. And when I compare what this place was to what it is today, it's just night and day in the amount of work and mistakes and money and blood and sweat and tears and goose poop that have gone into this farm. I don't know. The idea of just moving anywhere, even like to the next town over, seems kind of unfathomable because everything I've got is here within this land. This is my place. This is my home. And both Allison and I have always seen this place as our forever home. And so the idea of even just responding to a political situation and letting that be the thing that motivates us to leave, I don't know, that doesn't really make a whole heck of a lot of sense to me. And so I feel like a question about moving to Canada is very much a balance between the emotional and the practical and fear versus desire, and seeing which of those dimensions win out over the course of this exploration. All right, Toby, we're gonna go say hi to your birds. Morning, birds! Ooh, it's nice and toasty in here this morning. I mean, even when I think about like the infrastructure of this hoop coop, this cost money to build and took a lot of time and effort to build. And it's the perfect setup for raising birds here on our farm in our climate. And to have to like either take it all apart and take it with me or just give it up entirely, like that doesn't feel like a good choice at all. Release the Kraken! And then when I think about all the systems that I've built for this farm and all of the things that I've learned about our land and our climate. And then I think about starting from scratch somewhere else to do all of those things over again. Oof, that just feels really daunting too. But then at the same time, I feel like it is worth thinking about, would it make sense to go somewhere where I feel like the politics match my personal values more? And so it really is about balancing that inconvenience and difficulty of leaving with the hope of maybe finding something better. Aw, son of a gun. So we can see our chicken laid another egg this morning. Despite my ongoing efforts to try to convince her to lay in that one while I have a camera set up, she keeps going into all the other ones, and so I've been trying to block them off so she can't get in. But it seems like she moved the basket so she could use that one, rather than try to use the nesting box that has the peeping Tom cam right over there. But mark my words, you guys, at some point this winter, I'm going to get a shot of a chicken laying an egg for you. And when I think about the logistics of leaving, I don't know, those are kind of daunting too. I think about what it would take to get farm equipment and move things like that greenhouse and my tractor and our vehicles and like all of that stuff. Like, I don't even know like what I could take and what I couldn't take. And then when it comes to moving our animals, oof, I think that's really scary. I actually, before I decided to start recording this video, did do a little bit of research. It seems like I could probably get most of my animals across the border, but it would be very expensive. And by expensive, I mean like for each head of cattle I have, it'd probably be about $1,000 in paperwork and veterinary stuff and like just having to go through even potentially a quarantine period. Like all of those things would be difficult. And the same would go for the goats and the poultry and the dogs and the cats. And so it would be a very costly move, not even about buying property or selling property or just like the moving process, but just like the process of getting a lot of our animals into another country would take a lot of work. And if I was being really honest with you guys and really pragmatic about it all, if like gun to my head I had to do something like this, I would probably not take any of the livestock that we have. We'd probably have to sell off all of our cattle, all of our goats, all of our birds, and the only animals I would probably make that investment to bring with us would end up being, you know, Toby Dog, Abby Dog, Ginny, and Pablo, and Lil Barn Cat. And like, that would be it. Like, it would be those 5 would be the only ones coming with us. Just because I can't see a scenario where bringing all of the other animals makes sense. Plus the idea of starting a new place in a new country with existing animals who need shelter and who need food and who need care and like doing all of that stuff at the same time, that seems freaking insane. And so there's no doubt in my mind that the logistics and the hard choices I would have to make with a move like that completely suck and are not things that I'd want to do. Good morning, Goaty Otis's. How's it going, guys? I got some food for you. But then on the other hand, as I think about all of this, if I was going to pick any other country in the world that I would move to, there is no doubt in my mind that Canada would be my first choice. And mind you, I'm not saying that the Canadian people would want to have me. We'll address that point in just a moment. But what I'm saying is that, you know, culturally and climately and like everything about it would probably be the closest approximation for what I love about living here in New England. And even though I barely speak any French, the language thing there would be much easier than if I were to go to a lot of other countries. When it comes to popular culture, I think I like more Canadian things in a lot of ways than American things. My all-time favorite sketch show, my 2 favorite sitcoms, and I know most of you probably might not be aware of this, but if you ever have some good poutine, it will blow your freaking mind. And like, I'm talking about like really good, like Montreal delicatessen style poutine with like the smoked meat, an absolute culinary revelation. And by no means am I saying that like a couple of sitcoms and sketch comedy and food dishes make a country, but you know, I've spent a fair amount of time going to Canada. We only live about 50 miles south of the border. And so there'll be times when Allison and I will just like want to go get dinner over in Quebec and we can just go do that. And it's not that hard for us to do. And so it's a place that I feel very comfortable with. And then in theory, if we did go to Canada, the idea of coming back here to visit with friends and family would be much easier too, because most of our friends and family live in New England, and so that wouldn't be that hard. The dogs just started going nuts because Alfred and Heron just showed up, and so They're like a little bit on edge. It's okay, buddy boy. They're cool. They're cool. It's all right, sweetie. All right. It's okay. It's okay. I suppose that interruption speaks to another thing that would concern me, and that pretty much all of our friends and family are here, particularly in this area. And so being separated from them and being further away from them, like especially my nephews, I don't know, none of that would feel very good. And so yeah, that'd be a trade-off and sacrifice I wouldn't want to make, even if it was going to a place that I actually really like. But there are other reasons why Canada would be an attractive place to go too. I mean, I know this will be hotly contested in the comments, but I do think that their healthcare system is better than the healthcare system we have here in the United States. No, it's not that I think they have better doctors, and no, I don't think that they have better technology. It's that the way they finance and pay for their healthcare, I think makes so much more sense. And I continue to think that the US healthcare system is stupid and it's only getting worse, and we really need to take steps to change it. And I'm not talking about banning seed oils. I'm talking about the fact that the role that healthcare insurance plays here in the United States isn't doing what insurance is actually supposed to do. And so that means we should be probably taking a much more communal approach to how we pay for our healthcare costs as a society, because we'll save a whole butt ton of money and it'll be a whole heck of a lot more equitable. And I should probably make an entire video essay on this topic on my second channel, which I'm already doing.
Stories told with Morgan Gold. With Morgan Gold. It's time for Stories Told.
And I know that sunk cost is actually a fallacy, but another thing that really gives me pause is all of these trees. You know, I first started to establish this orchard back in 2017, and it has taken a whole heck of a lot of time to establish it. And now as you look at it, I've got trees that are, you know, 25, even 30 feet tall in this orchard. Not being able to enjoy the literal fruits of my labor would be completely depressing. And it would not be the type of thing I would want to surrender. I'm too committed, I'm too invested in this whole experience to ever want to give it up voluntarily. You know, I planted a lot of these trees when I was like in my late middle 30s, and now I'm in my mid 40s and I'm just being able to see them produce. To think about starting over again in my mid to late 40s and hoping to see the production there, I don't know, to lose nearly a decade like that would just be sad. And yes, the trees are probably the most obvious reminder of that, but that same concept applies to pretty much anything that we have here on this farm. Now, for those of you guys wondering, in this hypothetical, if I were to pick a place in Canada, where would we go? I know I definitely wouldn't move to the West Coast at all. Again, that just feels too far from where I feel my true home actually is. Heck, even Ontario feels like a little bit of a stretch. I'm absolutely in love with the scenery and setting and climate and people of a lot of the East Coast. So like Nova Scotia, Newfoundland, New Brunswick. Like I could see all of those places as being really great places to go and live. But the truth is, I'd probably go to the province closest to us in Quebec. Like, even though I don't speak good French, my wife speaks phenomenal French. She's even had to work in Francophile countries before, and so she's got like a business level of being able to speak French. And so it'd probably be easier for her to get a job, even though there's a whole lot of complexity with her getting her licenses to go there. Whoa, 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 whoa. What are you running at me for, girl? Hey, baby bee, how's it going? And so yes, that would be a little bit difficult for her, but I think she would solve it. And quite honestly, if I was going to say which of the two of us would be more likely to want to move based on political reasons, it would easily be her over me. But I could easily see wanting to go into like the more rural areas outside of Quebec City. Like that could be a perfect place for us, just from a climate, location, and like even real estate availability level. That would be probably the best option for us. But of course, if I go online and look at the real estate prices and what's going on in Canada, I would say they've experienced a similar bubble, or maybe not even bubble, but similar increase to what we've seen here in the United States. You know, when we bought our farm back in 2016, we spent $350,000 US for a 160 acre farm that had, you know, probably about 50, 60 acres of pasture, the rest of it being woods. It had the giant old barn, it had the big old house. And yes, we invested money in building new barns and fencing, and We did a whole full renovation of the old farmhouse. And so the price that this farm would fetch on the open market would be more than what we paid for it, even more than what we invested in it at this point, especially when you look at the appreciation of real estate markets. But I'm still very skeptical that we'd be able to find a similar property. In fact, we would probably have to take a different strategy for the types of places that we looked for. But knowing what I know now, with the experiences I've had over the last 6-7 years, and like kind of all of that knowledge accumulated, if I were to have to start over again, whether it be in Canada or the United States or pretty much anywhere else, what I would look for is the undervalued asset. And from what my perspective is right now, the undervalued asset is like forest land. So back when we bought this farm, it was an undervalued asset because it had the big old barn that was falling apart and the house needed some work. And even the land that we have here is conserved with an easement where we can never subdivide it and we can only ever use it for agriculture and forestry. All of that stuff meant that its value on the marketplace back in 2016 wasn't what I thought the value could be. And so when I look at the landscape now, what I see is actually big tracts of forest land. So like 100, 200, even like up to 500 acres of like woods is relatively undervalued, particularly if it's in a rural area that lacks a lot of the services that people are looking for if you were to try to subdivide that land. So at this point, what I would do is I would start with like either a cabin or no home at all in the middle of the woods. And I would work to turn that into a farm by taking down trees and probably using a combination of goats and chickens to turn woods into pasture so that I could eventually do things like add cattle or sheep or that sort of thing. Which raises an even another big issue I would be facing if I tried to move the farm from Vermont to Canada. The Canadian system of agriculture actually has strict production quotas in terms of what you can produce and what you can sell. And so if you don't have those quota slots, to the best of my understanding, you actually can't do like commercial agriculture like the way we can here in the United States. And so I would almost be limited to what I could do, where we're probably only raising food for ourselves versus like right now we have businesses where we sell beef or pork or chicken eggs or geese to like other people. Like if I were starting over, that might not look like starting a farm. And by the way, speaking of cattle, I don't know if you guys can see them, but they're way off in the distance over there. Let's go take a closer look. How's it going, crew to moo? Good to see all of you. Don't tell the cattle that I would have to sell them if we moved away, because I think it might upset them. So here we have Belinda Carlisle, who was the first calf ever born on our farm. And hopefully, with any luck, she's gonna produce some calves of her own next spring. And so I'm really excited to see that. And it's thoughts like that that would really make me not want to move too. But the reality is, the main reason why I wouldn't want to move my farm to Canada is I don't want to leave my country. The United States is my home. Like, this is where I've spent my entire life, and yeah, I might personally be not happy about the direction the country's heading in, and I might personally be very concerned about what we're gonna experience over the next couple of years, but by no means is that a reason to like pick up stakes and leave. And in fact, I would argue that now is a time to be getting more involved in our community and our state and our country more than ever, because I truly believe that the only way that you can try to prevent bad things from happening or improve the situation for us all is to get involved and to be engaged and not check out and not quit, and not just because I have the luxury of being able to do something like that, not actually do something like that, but actually get more involved and help, particularly for the benefit of people who might not have that luxury. Plus, I don't know how closely you guys follow Canadian news, but it did not take Justin Trudeau and really the entire country to act very quickly following the United States election to shift on their immigration policy.
Immigration. Let's talk about it. We're reducing the numbers of immigrants that will come to Canada.
I would definitely take that as a sign that they don't even want a putz like me coming to their country. So there's that issue too. And so yeah, you've heard it here first. Goldshaw Farm is not going anywhere. We are staying right here in Vermont and not leaving the country. Thanks for watching, everybody.